Okay, all right. So welcome to the training, family constellation virtual training to module 3. I have heard a little bit of feedback from you that you are starting to get into your facilitation skills and vibes, which is amazing, very good. And this is all about in module 3. What we are talking about is how the practical aspect of the work and um, uh, how do you position yourself in this work, right? That's basically the most important part of family constellation is how you position yourself in this, and how do you facilitate actually a constellation. As the title is giving it away, staying centered in the truth, something that Bert Hellinger is referring to often. That is the only place where you can possibly be to lead or to facilitate a family constellation. Every other place would be, how can I put it, would make the family constellation less impactful, or maybe even is beyond the topic and doesn't even is a facilitation of a family constellation, right? So what we're going to practice and what we learn today and what we're going to practice is exactly that, staying centered in the truth. So I'm taking you through in this module through all the pitfalls that you might fall in that takes you out of balance, right? Where you leave this place. So you know what to avoid, right? Okay. So part 1, that will be today, the next 3 hours. We are talking about the art of helping. Now, I have mentioned that before, but Hellinger has wrote a book in German, obviously, a very comprehensive book. It's probably that thick. It's called The Art of Helping in German. I could not find the English translation. It might has not been translated. I don't know. But the teachings and the studies that I did was a lot about from this book, and I'm glad that I kind of have it all stored somewhere up here, so I can recall most of it and pass it on to you. Obviously, this is all also my own experience. So it's not, I'm not just conveying a theory from Bert Hellinger. I'm conveying that what I have experienced myself, right? So the most important thing is the position of the helper. That's you. Because you are a helper, and now that is the tricky part. You are a helper without wanting to help. That is for the mind really difficult to fathom, right? But we will go through it. It all makes sense in the end, right? So just to remember, just to recap, when in the first module, in the first day, when we were talking about the family system and who belongs to the family system, you remember that we are adding, or we have added at the end the facilitator, and we have added the facilitator to the bottom of the family system. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. But we moved the facilitator away from the client and closer to the family system, right? So this is a very important movement, because although the client comes to you and wants you to help him or her, what you actually are doing is you are in service for the family system. And that sometimes is a clash, because it could happen, and it does actually quite often happen, that the client comes with different expectations. And then when you're in the field, all of a sudden you are guided by the family system through the morphogenetic field to do something different. And you have to trust that, and you have to gain the confidence over time that you can do that and go against the will of your client. Yeah? Okay, so that is the bottom of the system next to the client, and I want to repeat it, because when we say we don't want to help, what do we want? We want to
To bring the truth, to be rooted in truth.
Yeah, and what do we want to do in order to achieve that? What is
Stay centered.
To acknowledge what is.
we want to serve, not to help. All right? So we are a servant, right? We are serving. We are serving the greater God, the truth. Exactly. Right? So that's the position. That also means that the family system always comes first. Right? There can be lots of situations where you might wander off, and I would like you to remind that this is like a mantra. The family system always comes first. What the family system wants is what you are providing, or which you are serving. Right? What you do is, as a helper, you are connecting with your knowledge and experience. Now, your experience as a beginner is quite limited and small, but your knowledge might be quite wide if you have studied in depth. So that will balance a lack of experience. Be very aware of helpers who have neither knowledge nor experience. They call themselves intuitives, right? So some words of warning: you cannot help somebody with intuition, because you have no idea where this comes from. You don't know where that comes from, the family system. It could come from a possessed spirit, or it can come from your own family system, or it can come from an emotion you just have trapped in a recent uh, relationship. So this is not the work. We are not doing intuitive work, right? Our work is grounded in knowledge and experience. Yeah. So if somebody says to me, "Oh wow, you're really intuitive," don't take that as a compliment. It's really not. Although we are not intuitive. We know our stuff. Okay? Yeah? Okay, so the next one is challenging. We want to achieve nothing. So that's another mantra that you have to get really used to. We want to achieve nothing, because nothingness is good, you know? Because if you really think it through, what you've been presented with is a lot of stuff. Let's say it. The client wants to say a lot of words. There's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of stuff. But what you really want to is, you want to take all that apart and go through all this mist and all this stuff, and find the simple truth. Right? That's all. And that is not adding stuff. It's taking away. So the nothingness is actually what we really want, or that which is close to nothingness. So it's not like if you hear that you want to achieve nothing, that is actually something you will experience is really helpful if you have that, because it relaxes you in your position as a facilitator. You just imagine, just make a mind experiment. Just imagine you want to achieve something. Yeah? Just feel into that. Just feel into that. You have a client and you want to achieve something. What can that be?
Well, I'm thinking relief. I want to achieve relief.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, nothing else.
Anybody else? Something else? Think about it. What do you want to achieve? Do you want to make the client happier? Maybe you want to heal the client has a disease? The client comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm suffering from anxieties, you know. I have heard family constellation helps with that. I really feel like I can't live like this any longer, and this is why I'm here. Right? This happens. How do you feel about that?
Well, we can make no promises, so the work cannot start with a promise.
Yes. So we can not only not make any promises, we cannot make anything. We are just a conduit. We are servant. The field is doing it, right? You are not doing anything. That's important. So when a client comes to you and say all of that, you don't need to tell him, I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing anything. The field is, you don't need to talk. You just need to know that, because the client would probably be confused, and it would be out of his or her comfort zone if any of this discussion. That's only what happens inside. You sit there with your client. He comes, is desperate. He wants you to heal him, which a lot of patients expect from the doctors and clients expect from the alternative healers. And you sit there and you think, I don't want to achieve anything. The field wants to achieve something with your help or without your help, right? And that's super important that you take your ego out of the equation. Because whenever the ego, in whatever way, and even if it feels friendly and helpful, whenever the ego is in there, you are not completely able to connect with the field and with the family system. So whatever you are facilitating will be a little bit lesser as what it could be. And since we want to give our 100% service to somebody and not just 90%, that is what we say, I don't want to achieve anything for this client. No. I want to be of service to the family system. That's all. That's your mantra. And we are talking about that in the other slides later. There's a lot coming from the client and also from the group that will try to lead you astray. So be aware of that and be prepared. Be prepared. And we do an exercise to that. And we will do more than one exercise to be really clear about it. Yeah? Okay, so it's not only that you don't want to achieve anything, you also have not the desire to help. That's another trap to fall into, or another way to not be fully present and of service to the family system.
Can I ask you what is this distinction you are making between serving and helping?
That's exactly what we're talking about. So, this is not only a word. The words are not interchangeable. So helping. So if you are in the position of a helper, let's make an example. You're standing at the cross at a road, and there's an elderly woman struggling to go over the road because the cars are coming, right? Back and forth. So what would you say? Can I help you? Right? That's what you say.
Yeah.
And then she may say yes or no. You might feel compelled. She needs help anyhow, and she's too old to know what she needs. So you take her arm and guide her over the road. And on the other side, you are there and you're very proud of yourself, that you saved her life from the cars. And then she looks maybe around and said, I never wanted to cross the road. You don't know, right? Okay. So helping is always from the position of superiority.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
So you think you know more than the other. Or you have more abilities. In this example with the elderly woman, you have the ability, you are better at foot, you can see better. That is superiority. And it does not matter if your intentions are good, like the intentions don't count. So when you were talking about helping, and this is something that is not very common um, in our social field here in our society, because helping has such a positive flair, right? But if you look deep, and that's what we do here, we find out that helping is not positive. It takes responsibility away from somebody else, yeah, makes him lesser than you are, all these attributes. So this is why we do not want to say we help. We help nobody. Nobody needs our help. That's what I want to tell you. Nobody needs our help. Oh, hang on. There's somebody else coming in. Sorry. No, it's not. Where are these guys? Don't know. Okay. So that is the difference between serving and helping. The servant has been asked, has been employed to perform a certain task that is, in the end, from the perspective of the one who has employed you, helping. If you just think of service as an actual servant, I like this picture because it really makes clear what a servant is. Now, if we are talking about family constellation facilitating, of course, the client is not employing us for the service. It's a family system. Yeah. So we are not serving the client again, I repeat, but we are serving the family system. Yeah. So at the table is when you think of a servant and you think of a table, of a dinner table, a 7-course dinner table in a mansion somewhere. Yeah. And there are sitting many people, and you serve the plates and you clean up the dishes and you do what is necessary. Yeah. That's what a servant does. For them to experience what they want to experience, nobody of the people sitting there has employed you, right? That's important. The employer is wherever, somewhere else, maybe not sitting at the table. The people you are serving are not the ones who have employed you. That's the same with the situation with the client. The client is may sitting at the table or not, but you are serving everybody in the same way. And the employer would be very disturbed if you would only serve the employer and neglect the guests, right? And that is a very good picture. I really like that for a family constellation facilitator. Serving everybody who came to the party. And the party is obviously our family system. These the members of the family system who came together in a family constellation. That's our party, and they want to be served. And the client is might not even part of the party, especially when you, what we normally do, have a representative for your client. That would be as if your employer wouldn't sit at the dining table, but would be in his bedroom, resting, or in the next room in the library, whatever, in this case. And very often a representative is being chosen for the client, which is a really good way also. And much better if you start with constellations anyhow, to not let them stand up, because they will confuse you often with their desires, right? Or their preconceptions. Okay, so this is when you have no desire to help, means also you don't experience yourself as superior. You don't think you know more than your client, because you don't. You know nothing. because the family system will reveal whatever needs to be revealed. No? And that's a trap we are talking about later when you go into discussions with your client. It's very, very dangerous. Right? Okay. So so instead of wanting to achieve something or having desire to help, what is instead? What do you do instead? All you have to do is to place yourself in the position as a facilitator and trust the field to guide you all the way. And I shortcut that as staying empty and collected. Yeah. So when I say stay empty and collected, that's what I mean. All you have to do is to place yourself in the position as a facilitator and trust the field to guide you all the way. And why can you do that? Because you have knowledge and experience. Okay? If you wouldn't have neither or not one of it, we are back to our intuition, which we have no idea where it comes from. And it is really when you work like I do for so many years, when you work with the field and when you work with so many people from all walks of life and they all have their own things, you meet people either as a client or as a representative who think they know more than you. I guarantee you that. And in a lot of situations, you would, like a teacher situation or whatever, you would probably be offended by that or something, you know. But in your position, it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't oppose your situation. Because you agree that you know nothing, you know, about the family system. So there's nothing to argue about, right? A different situation is if somebody comes to your constellation and has done a lot of facilitations. If somebody comes to your workshop and has done a lot of family constellations, now they want to tell you how to tackle a constellation. That's a whole different game, right? But this has nothing to do with the family system. Yeah. But we will talk about that. There's somebody come in, which is Kate. Okay. Hi, Kate. Are you with us? Any excuses?
I just completely lost track of the time. I didn't see what time it was. Sorry.
Okay. So we are at the point to talk about all you have to do is place yourself in the position as a facilitator and trust the field to guide you all the way. Yeah. And just let that sink in, because when you do the training, you have the knowledge. And we will also do practice facilitations, and you will start, or you have already started to have some experience. And that is enough, you know, that's enough that you need. And there's another mysterious law of nature is in life, nothing is thrown at you that you cannot handle. You know, you can trust that. You will never come in a situation that you can actually not handle, because life is not like this. Everything you can handle that, even if you don't think you can. So this is good to take the thinking out and stay empty and collected, right? Okay, so how do we get to this state? To the state to be empty and collected. That is purely by practicing waiting in silence and withstand the urge to do something. Yeah. So either there are two ways that can happen as a position of the helper. Either it is absolutely clear and obvious what is to do. You know, it's like the servant, remember? It's obviously that they have to serve the soup now. Yeah? So you don't need to think about it twice. It's so obvious. Or there's nothing on the service table that you can serve. So, you know, you can't serve because there's nothing. What do? You wait until the food comes out of the kitchen, right? And that's what you do as a facilitator as well. You wait. You wait and you are silent. And that is something we all get very nervous about. And this is why I want to make some exercises with you to make sure that you get used to that. So meditation helps if you have a regular meditation practice or even an irregular meditation practice. It does help because you know how full silence can be, how it is not nothing. Silence is a beautiful place to be in, right? And if you feel comfortable in this place because you do silent meditations, then you will be also comfortable when you have a client sitting next to you who has probably expectations, or a whole group who is snatching, what do you say, with the feet, um, you know, being full of expectations that something happens. And when you're empty and collected and you are actually sitting silent with the client, it's often so powerful and so energetic that all the participants are mesmerized. They are not bored, they are not falling asleep, they are mesmerized. You know, if you feel comfortable in this silence. Of course, if you don't feel comfortable in the silence, then everybody else is not comfortable. And then it becomes probably messy. Yeah. So practice this comfort. And when I finish with the slide, we're gonna do that. Okay, so we said already, don't try to do something. You know, like to do something, meaning something that is not obvious. So if nothing obvious comes to you, for example, in our example with the servant, there is nothing on the service table, so he cannot serve anything. So you try to, you know, whatever, grab a candle holder and put it on the table to do something, you know? That's not helping anybody. They still don't get food, you know? So avoid that. It would be distracting the process. And you get out of this zone of waiting in silence where actually something can happen and come forth. Then we have to talk. No, actually, we do our exercise now. We talk about the art of not knowing later. So we are doing some exercise. So first of all, we start with a meditation, with a guided meditation. So sit comfortable with an upright spine. Put all your notebooks and everything away, the kappa. And then we want to take some deep breath into the belly. Yogic breath. You may mute yourself so there's not so much background noise before you go into the meditation. Okay. So loosen your shoulder, your jaw. The eyelids are relaxed. The skin over your face, over your head is relaxing. The brain is relaxed. And with every breath, you sink deeper into your inner space of peace, calmness, tranquility. The space where there's no worries and no excitements. Space where there is no yesterday and no tomorrow. Where there is no words, no emotions. Just being, freedom, awareness of what is going on in the now. And in this happy space of yours, which can have any shape or form, which can be inside or outdoors, which can be a place you know, or it can be always changing. In this space, you see yourself sitting on a chair, and you are alone. There's nobody with you. There's no person, no animals. There's no books, no music, no devices. There's not a kitchen or anything. Nothing you can do. No one to talk to. You sitting on your chair in your happy space. That's all. There's no feelings of fear, no expectations, excitements about what's to come because nothing's gonna come. You are sitting on your chair, silent, connected with the moment, being aware of the moment, observing yourself sitting on a chair. You continue breathing, and if any thought arises, like you have to do something or to look for something, let it pass like clouds in the sky. And come back to yourself sitting on the chair for no reason. And the sitting on the chair feels warm, feels like home, feels like the only place to be in this moment. There is no other place to be. No other place can possibly be in this moment. And you feel how your energy field is expanding while you are sitting on the chair. And you feel vastness inside and out, like an expanded awareness. And sensations in the body that is reflecting this vastness that you're experiencing in your awareness, like tingling. And you realize what a beautiful, beautiful space it is to be in, sitting on the chair, expanding the awareness. Nothing needs to happen. And your awareness is focusing again on yourself sitting on the chair, the form of your body, the breathing, the smelling, the hearing of noises, of sound. And you come back into your room in your own time. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And when you're back, open your eyes. Take a deep breath. Inhale through the nose and take an open mouth exhale. Very good. Hello, Nam Shakti.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm sorry I'm late. I fell asleep.
I was worried about
Sorry.
that. What can we do?
Oh,
Shall I ring you? 5 minutes.
no, I forgot it was Friday and I woke up to go to the bathroom and I was like family constellations. I was like, oh, I have to get up right now.
Well,
So I
you
think
managed. Very good.
spiritually you woke me up.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So we just did the exercise. You see the slide, the exercise of practicing waiting in silence. But you can all recap that in the recording before tomorrow. You can just watch the first hour. Okay. So let us just quickly tune in. Please unmute everybody. Okay. So just a quick checking in with everybody one at a time, what you have experienced. Tracy, would like to start?
I just experienced a really deep state of relaxation.
Very good. And how did it feel?
It felt great.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Mariella?
Yes, I went into a beautiful meditation. I wanted to go on. Anyway,
Yeah. This is exactly the state, yeah, I would like you to experience. That is nothing that you want to stop, actually. Yes, very good. Thank you. Ale?
Yes, I was in a really quiet and peaceful space, very calm. And yeah, I don't want to go back.
Oh, thank you, Ale. And Kate?
Yeah, I found that I like to, I'm comfortable in the sun, sitting in the sun. So I imagine the sun on my skin, and it took me right to where I used to rest in Long Island when I needed to just stop. So it's a great place to imagine myself, because I'm instantly just melt completely. Yeah, so it's nice to have a place I can envision and just be there. Yeah, thank you.
Great. So that would be now your happy space that you can go to when needed. Ale?
Can we do longer next time?
Of course, we do it again. We do it probably in the next half with Sonam Shakis with us as well. Yeah. Okay. So this space is this space you find yourself in the place where you don't feel the desire to help, when you want to achieve nothing. So it's a beautiful, it's not scary, it's actually beautiful. And why wouldn't you want to be in this space? And from this space, the family system is connecting to you, right? And you would absolutely clearly see what is to do. Very, very clearly. It is so clear that you know, you're not questioning it even. Wonderful. So we do a little bit of another exercise now. No, we finish the chart and then we do another exercise. So the art of not knowing. I have once read a beautiful book, and I have to find the author. I think his name is Ralph somebody. He was a professional sportsman or athlete or something. Anybody knows him? He has wrote the book The Art of Not Knowing. I think it was him.
Rings a bell.
Huh?
I've heard about it. I think
Yeah.
it rings a bell. Yeah.
Ralph somebody. I think it's American. So I read it years ago. I read it, and I have read a lot of books, but this took me by surprise in the way he is deciphering exactly the stages of not knowing and the beauty of it. Because it's one thing that spiritual teacher talking to you about it, how beautiful it is to not to know, but you don't feel it. and then somebody is actually able to, you know, take every part away from you, so that you come to the state of not knowing and you really feel it, and you really feel the beauty of not knowing, exactly the same space as you were just in your meditation. So only when you, so the other example would be a glass of water. You have of course heard about that, but probably not thought of it in this way. There's a saying, the glass is either half full or half empty. You know that, eh? That's just a metaphor for perspective, how you see things. Now imagine the glass would be full, not half full, full. Yeah? Can you add anything to it? It's impossible. It will just flow over. It will always stay the same, right? You cannot add anything to a full glass. However, when the glass would be empty, think of all the lovely liquids you could put in and enjoy. Yeah. So the state of knowing that we are all too proud of is a full glass. The glass you cannot add anything. Right? And the place of not knowing is this complete empty glass where you could put anything in. Right? So where would you rather be? In a family constellation, as a facilitator. Right? Don't need to answer that, just think about it, let it sink in. Right? So when your glass is full, that is the position of a helper. The helper who has a full glass and thinks, oh, I have all this in this glass and I can now use it. But the facilitator has an empty glass and waits in the state of calmness and collectiveness, empty and collectiveness, waits for the family system to fill it. And it will. There's no doubt about that. Otherwise, our work would not be able to be done. And it's completely okay as a beginner to work with a half full or half empty glass. But it's a really not a scary place and a very, very beautiful place to find this place of not knowing. Now, in concrete, what does that mean? Of course, you know a lot because you learn it here, obviously. And it is necessary, as I said before, stay away from intuitives who have no knowledge, no experience, right? You have the knowledge, but the knowledge is like the glass, not what's in the glass. The knowledge is the container, right? So if you wouldn't have the knowledge, you wouldn't have a glass, so you nothing to fill, you know? So every attempt to fill it would just go away because there is no glass to hold it and it will just flow away, you know? And that's what you learn. You learn to form this glass that is actually containing emptiness, the space that can be filled by the family system. Okay. Any questions to this? No, it's crystal clear. Good.
I want to ask what the space feels like to you. I'm just curious.
Exactly as it feels to you in the meditation.
Okay.
Yeah. Spacious awareness, a tingling sensation. Had you had that tingling sensations in the head, the hands? Yeah, that's it. That's when your awareness is expanding, more space. Yeah, exactly like this. That's it. So the position of the helper. So what helps the helper, if I would like to say that? What helps the helper? Or so there's a wonderful tradition in spiritual wisdom schools to refer to their own teachers, right? To invite their own teachers into the field and kind of step out and say, I'm not here to take over, so to speak. And in many traditions, you take, like in many yogic traditions, you have a picture of your spiritual leader or teacher or guru next to you, so he's actually or she is actually present, but that's not necessary. It can be present in your image. And you can ask for help in this case if you feel the need for it, but you can also just, invite your teacher to be with you. Just that is enough. No. There's other ways to include the teacher. I I don't know. It just comes to my mind. I think somebody of my group, when we were studying family constellation with the Hellinger School, wanted to, in one of the practice sessions we did, wanted to put 2 chairs behind. So you have the 2 chairs in the family constellation. He wanted to put 2 chairs behind himself for Bert and Sophie Hellinger. Empty chairs, which is an interesting aspect. I find it a bit spooky. I wouldn't feel comfortable with 2 empty chairs behind me, but for him that was it. So whatever helps, use it. Yeah. I like to light a candle, for example, and have a candle, or I used to, probably not anymore, but in the beginnings, I always had a candle. And the candle was for me symbolizing my teachers. And I always lit the candle, and I had a little secret ceremony which nobody needed to know, took part in, before I sat down and started anything that had to do with facilitating or coaching.
Do you think it's a good idea to enter the room and sort of set the intention or hold the space before people come?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about the I think that tomorrow I have to look. I think we talk about that tomorrow, how we actually set up the room. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. So whatever, so be aware. It's very important that you, as much as you are honoring and respecting your parents and your grandparents for what they have given you. Yeah, it's the same with teachers. If you honor and respect your teachers, then they are able to provide you with, with the energy, with the wisdom, with the knowledge, with the teaching. But if you're not honoring and respecting your teacher, then they can't, nothing can flow, obviously, because you're blocked towards the flow. And it's not uncommon, and it's without any malicious intent, that a student is ready and does and thinks, okay, now I'm ready, and totally forgets about the teachers, because, I can do it now. But it is probably possible. Of course, he or she can do something, but how much more intense would it be if he or she would invite the teachers in, and not from the state of need, but from the state of respect and honor. Yeah, that's a different state. It's not like, oh, I can't do it without. So that's, now everything can go sideways, right? When you make it a habit and say, oh gosh, I forgot the picture of my teacher. No, I traveled like whatever 500 kilometers to this workshop room, and I don't have the picture of my teacher. Now I can't perform. Now I cannot facilitate. Of course, that goes sideways. You're not depending on that, right? That's important. So you don't need anything. You don't need crystals. You don't need the picture of your teacher. You don't need it, right? But what you need is to honor and respect your teachers, regardless how good you are, regardless how much you have done already, or if they have died or not, or whatnot, right? Regardless, this is what you honor, and you honoring always the lineage of the teacher, not only your direct teacher, but also the teacher of your teacher, right? Because it all has been passed down somehow. It's like it's the same as in the family system. When you're honoring your mother, you're honoring the mother of the mother, because the life of your mother is coming from the mother of the mother and the mother and the mother and the mother of the mother, right? And this all doesn't need to be aware, like conscious aware and make a thing out of it. It's just in the background that you're aware of it, and that it plays a certain role when you go ahead. Okay, so let's time check. Yes, so now we do an exercise. Please unmute yourself. Okay, so now we are doing an exercise, and one of you is the client and one of you is the facilitator. And everybody has a go, so you can raise your hand now or later. Doesn't matter. Who wants to be the client?
I'll be the client.
Good. Who wants to be the facilitator?
I will.
Okay, Tracy, very good. All right. So, Tracy and Mariella, we are not talking about sittings and everything in the right place. We're just talking about sitting with your client in silence, right? That's all you practice. So, Mariella is the client, Tracy is the facilitator. And now you're looking at each other. And Tracy is empty and collected in her happy space. That's it. And then Tracy, you close your eyes. That's it. And now you feel Mariella. You feel her presence. You feel her energy field. You don't need to have a specific feeling or picture. Just be open. Be aware of any sensations you get. And when you're ready, open your eyes and share with us what you have experienced.
I felt calm and warm. I had a sort of a sensation in the front of my face, like a tingling down the front of my face.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else strongly.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Mariella, how was that for you?
How was being in silence, or
Just your sensation in this exercise.
I feel calm after doing the meditation, so that helped me a lot. Before I was feeling tired, like when we first started, but that energized me. And yeah, perhaps I feel the meditation helped me to calm up to my neck kind of thing. But yeah, I could have go on. I needed just a few extra minutes to calm my head.
I see. Okay, very good. Thank you. Very good. Okay, so two others. Who wants to be the client and who wants to be the facilitator? Ale?
I will be the client.
Okay.
Okay. I'll be
You're
the facilitator. Okay.
All right, we do the same exercise. So you are looking at each other, connecting with each other. And the facilitator, Kate, is kind of observing or sinking into the energy field of the client. And then you can, whenever you choose, close your eyes and stay with the presence of your client, in your happy space. And be aware of any sensations you might have, anything that comes to your mind or in your body, without any judgment, just taking note of it. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes and look at your client. So what was it?
I felt quite a change, actually.
Yeah.
I felt I don't know if it was Allie's energy or mine, but I felt a huge amount more energy at first, and then slowly relaxed, and finally I could have just gone to sleep. I felt so relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good.
But at first I had a surge of energy.
Well, so now that is a good feedback. I guarantee you it was from Ale. And who knows Ale knows that that's a very accurate description of her energy field. Yeah. So
How was it?
you have to trust that what you experience in this state of emptiness and collectiveness is from the one you are connecting with. And there's no point in,
Questioning.
questioning it. Right. Very good. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Okay, now Shakti, we want to be client or facilitator? We're swapping anyhow, but just for now.
I could be the facilitator.
Nice. And choose your client. Somebody who has not been client before. Who is it? Raise your hands. Tracy and
Kate and Tracy.
So whoever, Tracy.
Tracy. Okay. All right. Take a few deep breaths. Look at each other. Be aware of the sensations that you have. Maybe a thought comes, maybe an emotion even, or a bodily sensation. Don't question it, don't judge it, don't think about it. Just be aware. What was it?
I feel calmed, a little nervous, but calmed.
Very good. Is it something that's familiar with you, Tracy? A little nervous?
No, not now. I felt calm. Yeah,
No, not
peaceful.
now. Something that is familiar that you in your energy feel that you would say that's familiar.
No,
You're
no.
never nervous.
No, not usually. No.
Okay. Very good. And how do you feel now, Shakti? Are you awake?
I'm awake.
Good.
I still feel a little nervous, like a little sensations in my hands and a little feeling in my gut.
Very good. Maybe because you missed the meditation.
I meditate before I go to sleep for 30 minutes and I pray too. So I would say I'm pretty up.
Very good. So we see what all this means, the nervousness. We will see what it means. Okay. So let's see, time check. What would be the next slide? We can't just stop here. I share that again. I don't want to rush it towards the end of the day. Okay. So now we are talking about leading the client. So obviously, as a facilitator, you are in a position of leading, right? And actually, when you look at the German translations, the English translations of the German books from Bert Hellinger, you find not the word facilitator, but the word of leader, a constellation leader. Yeah. It has been used for that. Facilitating, I think it's more accurate, but as you already can picture from that is, or take from that, is that you are actually, as a facilitator, also in the position of leading. Yeah. And that is very important, and it is not contradicting the service idea, you know. And leading doesn't mean helping or wanting something. It's just leading means you are taking the lead for the group or the client, whatever, you know, because that's actually your role. And when you lead the client, there is, first of all, because we are talking about a family constellation, you might not have a client at first because you're in a workshop situation. So you need to invite people to constellate. That's the first step, right? So how do you do that? What happens if nobody raises their hand? For example, happens, right? So you are in the position you need to lead, right? So there are several things you can do. You can say, "I take you." Bert does it all the time. People are having the hand up and trying to make him aware, and he is not seeing any of those people. He's just somebody in the back. He said, "I take you." Mariella?
In the constellations I did, there was a moment where no one put their hands up, but someone mentioned that she was having a headache. And I said, okay, that's coming from the field. I take you. You follow up with you now.
Yes.
And yeah, so that was good.
Very good.
Whatever, you know, they inform you with, and yeah, we'll go there then.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for the example. So that's exactly what can happen when nobody takes a hand. The field will release something and you will be drawn to it. So it could be either somebody says something or somebody says nothing, but you know whom to pick. Now, obviously, people have free will, so they might come and they might not come. When Bert Hellinger said to somebody, come, they come. When you say to somebody, come, they might not come if they don't put their hands up. They might say, oh, I don't want to. Yeah. And that's fine, obviously. It's not a failure that you misinterpreted the field, you know? It's just that the person you're dealing with, the client, is not ready to be led. And then there's no point. So you repeat the whole thing. And if you find no one to work with, then you can always either have a break, make a break, or do an exercise, or let everybody get up and put some music on and have a dance around, or you come up with a guided meditation, you know? So do something else, just drop it, okay? And wait for the next moment. Will be different. So let's assume you have a client to work with. In a workshop setting, where does the client sit is important. So we are working in a room, so the client can either sit next to you, either right or left, in front of you, facing you, or in your back. I mean, in theory, right? That's if we are if we are in a room. There are situations where in consulting situations where you sit opposite to your client, right? I mean, that's quite common, isn't it? Tracy, how do you work with your clients?
They are to my side, so I'm sort of side on to them.
So you don't have a desk situation?
I have a desk, but so the desk is kind of to my side and my client is here, so I can sort of do, because I do a lot of writing, so I can sort
so
of...
you in a 90-degree angle? Or
yeah,
90-degree angle to you.
Mm.
On which side? You were
my
facing to your left?
So in one clinic, they're on my, in two clinics, they're on my left, and on the other, they're on my right. It's all determined by where the desk can be in the room.
Oh, yeah. Have you felt a difference?
It's easier when they're on my left because I'm right-handed, so it means that I can turn more easily in my body.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So the client can sit in front of you or in an angle to you or whatnot in situations. However, in a family constellation, they always have to sit next to you, both facing the same direction. Why? Because you're not concerned with each other. You're concerned with the family system. Right? So if you would sit next to each other, not next, opposing each other, it's kind of no room for the family system to be. It's like a conversation, yeah? And you have no conversation with your clients in a family constellation. You don't want him in your back. Obviously, there is no relationship going on. You don't want him in your front, as we discovered. So they have to sit at the side of you. Now the question is which side? And there's a really strict rule from Bert Hellinger, and I know you know, because we talked about that. Who comes first? You or the client? The client. And who comes first is on which side? The right side. Right. So here's my right hand. Here's where the client sits. Right. So I'm left. The client is right. Yeah. And there is no practical implications because you're not writing anything, or you're just sitting with your client. Right. So when you want to lead the client from the position of a servant, you give him the right seat, right? But you direct him from this position. So the directing of a client is quite subtle normally. And we talk about this now, how you lead with great subtlety, but highly effective. First of all, you need to connect with the field, obviously, to stay empty and collected. That is the way. And then you are feeling what she or he feels. Yeah, and that is really something that is more and more obvious when you practice it. So that's really a matter of practice. So don't expect that to happen immediately. It's possible, but it's not likely, nothing you aim for, but do it all the time. Then with practice comes the experience, right? So there's, for example, I don't know whether anybody of you was there, Ale was there. We had this free talk in Wellington. And I was talking, and then I wanted to demonstrate family constellation, and I asked somebody if they want to come. And I think most of the people have never been. I think it was our first free talk. And then a woman came in her mid-60s, I think she was, and sat on my chair right to me. And then I said, okay, so what is it? And she, because she didn't know family constellation, and she obviously hasn't, I don't know, listen to what I said before. I didn't explain it very well. She said, well, nothing. She didn't know that she has been expected to have a problem or to say something or do, So that's fine. We always go with what is. I not say to her, okay, you go, I take somebody else. If you do that, you're not trusting the field, right? You don't do that. With one exemption, which comes in the end. So then I said, okay, let's sit here together. So we sat there together, empty and collected on my part. And it didn't take long. And I felt this heat, right? Burning heat. And I asked her, what is this fire? And then she completely broke down and said she's suffering all her life from anxieties that she's going to burn to death, right? And then now we had this constellation. So we started the constellation with her and the fire, and it was a beautiful constellation. It was very intense. So that is as an example that is happening when you are empty and collected and completely free of expectations, right? And you don't have the desire to help or to do anything or anything. If nothing would have happened, I would have probably just say, that was nice, now you can go, after sitting 5 minutes with her. Why not? No expectations can happen. And it's good if you allow that to happen, because you need practice to do that. And practice means that you just expose yourself to the situation, over and over and over again. And you can practice that when you're in a restaurant with people you don't know and they never ask you to do. Somebody who's sitting, at the next table. You can practice that. I was once sitting at a dinner table. It was a huge, I don't remember, it was some kind of a black tie event, huge table, huge. And I was still studying. I was still studying. And I was sitting at this dinner table and there was a woman next to me, and you know what you do? You do conversations. And she was doing conversations and I was doing conversations. And then all of a sudden, I said to her, what happened to your 2 children? And she broke down at the dinner table, for goodness sake, and was, I forgot what it was, but it was something very dramatic. So this is also, when you're unexperienced, you do this at a dinner. You're not supposed to do that on a dinner table, right? So, but you know, what shall you do? You're unexperienced. You're surprised yourself with this. You know, you do. So this happens. As I said, you can practice this. Probably don't share it with random people, but practice it. You know, practice how that feels, and then you get used to this. And as more you get used to it, as more clear it becomes that you are getting the information from the field. Yeah, not from your imagination. Okay. So then the next step is normally when a client sits next to you in a workshop setting, 90% of the clients start to talk a lot because they were waiting for this moment. They paid for it and they had so many things to say, and now they can say it, and now it comes all out. And that is okay. Normally we don't want so many information, especially not so unfiltered, but that's okay. That has to come out. However, I want you to not to listen to a word of what she's saying, or he. Not a word. Don't just be polite and let that all come out. And then when there's a break, you know, something she needs to catch the breath or something, then you can say something. Then you can say, for example, what is, you know, what do you want to look at? Or who comes to you now? Or who are you thinking of? Or anything, right? Or do you have a sensation? Do you have an illness, a disease? You know. So I just want you not to refer to whatever she has said. Just start with your own practice, like how you do it. You know, that is leading. You don't let her lead you. You lead her, right? So you start new when they are completely. Then the other situation is that the client says, I want to look at my grandmother. And that's it. And it's very, very determined, very collected, very, you know. And that's fine. Why not? Of course you can look at her grandmother. It might or might not be important. Yeah. So you can go with that, no problem. But if you have another picture, you might, we had one of these constellations, I remember in one of the training sessions. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we chose, I think Mariella was this, wasn't it? We chose not to go with that, what the client said, right? Yeah, that was that. But however, if you're starting to facilitate family constellation, go with the client, you know, if you feel better. Because whatever wants to reveal itself will reveal itself wherever you start. So it should not matter too much where you start, right? So when the client says, I want to look at my grandmother, you have two choices. You can say, yes, let's choose a representative for your grandmother, or you can ask the client why. What would you do? A or B? Nothing?
I suppose it will depend on you know how collected I am and what I feel. I don't think I would ask why to the client, but choosing to go with what she or he's proposing or not to will, I don't know. I think if I'm collected in, I will perceive that information, I suppose. I suppose there could be moments where why I could ask why from time to time, but I would try to avoid why most of the time.
Very good. That's what the answer I was looking for. Don't ask why. However,
I would say say a little bit more about that, maybe.
Too open. It's the same as why. So you open quasi the big door for the client to talk, right? About the grandmother. Or actually the client cannot talk about the grandmother, will have little knowledge about it, little direct experience, but a lot of stories heard about the grandmother, right? So in order to avoid that the client starts to tell stories, why you had a client with you who is really, you know, had a short sentence, which is great. Without avoiding, if you don't want to put up the grandmother and see what happened, then you can say, instead of why or tell me about your grandmother, so say, what happened to your grandmother? It's a very specific question, right? Can you feel the difference?
Yeah.
What happened to your grandmother? And then the client says, either she died in the war, yeah, so you have strong energy to work with, or she said nothing, or she said, I saw her in my meditation. So in first or in the third answer, you would go with the grandmother. In the second thing, you would just delete everything and start new, you know? Because apparently she comes with her head. There was something in her head about grandmother, but when you kind of pointed to her and she has no answer, then is it the field or not? Is it the head? I would say it's the head because she came with it, you know, to the constellation. It didn't happen on the seat. When it happens on the seat, it's guided, but it's often that the clients, especially ones who come for the first time, they come with a mental concept of what they want. So when you want to work with the client and the client has a concept about what, there are ways to find out whether it is a mental concept or is she or he guided by the field. And we know it's guided by the field when it's short, precise, and she says this under pressure. So if you're not being nice to her, you're saying, what happened to your grandmother? So you wake her up, yeah? To facilitate family constellation is not to be nice to people, right? You have to be quite fierce often, sometimes very unpleasant. That was very unpleasant, I tell you. He got a lot of critique about it publicly. But it works. It works. Why does it work? Because you are leading, you know? And we talk about that in the moment when we talk about leading a group. It's even more important. Okay. So that is the question, to let him talk or not talk. That is the question here in the Shakespeare manner. We ask this question. You can let them talk, but it has no meaning, right? So if somebody needs to talk to get something off the chest, there's no point in stopping them, but don't go with it. You know, it's just like somebody needs to just empty out and then you start. Good. Avoid suggestive questions like a suggestive question would be, do you not want to look at your mother, don't you? Something like that, you know. No place for that. Better to sit in silence than asking suggestive questions. Yeah. So that's an important point. You are neither an authority nor a friend. What do you think when you hear that? Does it kind of make sense? No, the light is bright. Does it kind of make sense? No.
Yeah, in one case you're telling them what's happening, and in the other case you're submitting to whatever they are feeling, I guess. A friend, right, is being kind or whatever.
Yeah, kind of. So when you're coming in as an authority, you are not open to the subtleness, you know, of what's coming from them and the field. you know, because you're coming from the state of superiority in, and then you can't pick up what the subtleness of what is there. And also when you're coming as an authority in, then the clients, they cannot open up, you know, they just follow you blindly, you know, because you are an authority. So, and then you mix that with a suggestive question, you go nowhere, you know. It's better to be silent. So, and you're not a friend neither, because as Kate just said, you're kind of becoming a chit-chat situation, you know, and that you want to avoid that obviously as well. So this is what you know, you are still a servant of the family system. There's no need to be anything else. Yeah. So when you have a difficult client, which is either on the chair difficult or later in the constellation, you know, difficult, like demanding or demanding or just annoying you in some way or the other, which can happen. There's a good trick to you picture him or her as a 4-year-old. That works fantastic, because then you are becoming more, you know, you don't feel offended by a 4-year-old, don't you? And you are more relaxed about nonsense from a 4-year-old than from an adult person. So this is why it's really good, and gets you back into the position of a leader, but not an authority, not a friend, just a leader, the facilitator, dealing with the uncomfortable or naughty child, you know. And funnily, these clients may actually need to go in the constellation and be this child. So you often see that we have this situation that the child is towards the parents or the grandparents not respectful and feels bigger, you know, and not small enough. That's very interesting. So take everything, also everything that happens when you are facilitating happens for a reason and has to do with whatever is want to be revealed, even if it's not obvious. And never take anything personal, because you are empty and collected. How can be anything personal? The person is not there.
When you're saying difficult, are you meaning being sort of obstructive to you, to the process? What exactly are you meaning?
Anything that triggers something in you that makes you uncomfortable. You know, so a demanding client or somebody who looks at you that makes you uncomfortable, or doesn't want to stop talking, or you know, has a body language that makes you uncomfortable. It's about you, not the client. So if you feel the client is difficult, picture him as a 4-year-old, whatever that is, to make you comfortable again, so you can go in the position of leading and not protecting you or, you know,
Yeah.
from unpleasant experiences, right? Okay. If you have a feeling of resistance in the client, like you want to bring a point across, but the client doesn't get it or something like that, then it is falling back on you, because all that has happened is that you had expectations that the client doesn't meet in this moment. And as you now know, you do not have any expectation, right? So this incident, or this whole topic that a client is resisting is not possible in a family constellation, if you really think about it. No. On the other hand, there is that the client has expectations, and that happens a lot, especially if they have done many family constellations before. You know, they come and they sit there and they say, oh, I have looked at my mother 3 times, and I have done my family of origins 5 times, and I saw where my anxiety comes from, and we solved the abortion of my great grandmother and everything else. Yeah, how do you work with this? You know, that's the question. How do you work with this? And then the client expects from you that you find something unsolved, so to speak. You know, and this is now the position where you just stay empty and collect and wait and let them talk, and then you say stop. Let's stop. I don't need to know all of this. Often clients also think you need to know their story. You need to know their family story. You need to know what constellations they have done to set you into the picture, so you know where to start from, like where to take it from, like in a kind of a normal counseling situation, you know. But that's not family constellation. Family constellation is to go with the field and what the field is suggesting. And obviously, because the client is there, the family system has sent the client, so you can't just send him away and say, you have done so many family constellations, now go and gives the seat to somebody else, you know, who has a more pressing urge, because, you know, it's all guided. So he sits there or she sits there demanding from you to find some loophole in all the constellations, and you just say, let's sit here and see what comes up. And you do exactly that what you did before, staying empty and collected and practicing waiting in silence. And if nothing helps, you put the client up with the representative. I mean, you put the representative of the client on into this and say, okay, we start with you. Let's see. And something will come from there. Although, however, when I said that, it's very difficult constellations if you have only one person. So you don't start with that. It's always a good idea to put the mother with it. You know? And see what happens. And you know the magic words, and you know how to find out if a dynamic is present or not. And always start with the most obvious. The most obvious is always the mother, the father, maybe the partner. Why the partner always is the mother then. So, you know, take the most obvious. We can also work with absent clients. So the chair can be empty. The field is everywhere beyond time and space, but you need to have a client, so somebody who has actually asked you for a constellation. You can't make it up. So there's often, and this even happened with Sophie Hellinger, that she said, oh, I'm curious, I want to look at coronavirus, or I want to look at whatever, some politics that's going on or something, right? So literally the chair is empty, but there's also not a client who has asked for a constellation. And these are very incoherent. It could be anything. You never know. It has actually no meaning. You never really have the benefit out of this constellation, you know. And it's a really waste of time. And it's more like a role play situation. And I think it's muddying the waters of family constellation a lot. And you can only do that when you're a really experienced facilitator and you have very lighthearted group. Yeah. That you know. But then the question is, why would you do it? You know. So I would stay away from that. You either do a constellation or you do an exercise with the group or the client. No? So if you have an absent client, it's the same happens as everything is the same, only that nobody's sitting next to you. Well, nobody for the group is seeing somebody sitting next to you, but you know the one who is sitting next to you, and in your energy field or in your mind, this person is sitting there. And the rest is exactly the same as if the client would be physically present. So it's not that you're trying to help somebody who's not there. It's somebody who has asked to consulate who cannot be there, right? That's the idea of the absent client. And it works the same way, and it has the same impact on the family system, as everything applies in the same way. There's nothing special about that. Other than that's very comfortable because you don't need to talk with the client, which does help a lot often. And then while leading the client, if there is no, how can I put it? Don't be afraid or shy of experimenting. No, experimenting doesn't mean like you are doing a random constellation. It means that in a constellation, you are experimenting with the dynamics and relationships. And we did that actually naturally all the time. Like we say, okay, let's let this representative tell the other representative, just ask them please and see what happens. And if that's not resonating, then let him say thank you instead. And that's what I mean with experimenting, right? So you don't need to know exactly what's, well, you don't know it anyhow. So be open to it, that is a very appropriate way to lead the client in the constellation. You know, say, okay, let's take you and go somewhere else and see how you feel there, right? That's all good and important, as long as you have a vision, as long as you know what you are doing in a way. So it's not completely random. You know about dynamics, you know what hints at what, you know, which body language, which position, you know all this. So remember, the glass is your knowledge is there. You have a glass, you just fill it up with observations from different positions, right? It's not that you don't have a glass, you have the glass. Okay. All right. Oh, I think it's time for a break. It's already 7:45. Let's do 10 minutes, and it would be 5 to 8 in New Zealand, and in Washington, it would be 5 to something. 5 to 3. Oh my gosh. So good on you. Now, Shakti. See you in 10. So now we are talking about leading the group, because that's a whole different experience as leading the client. In a workshop situation, even if it's a smaller situation or a larger one, you have a group, and in a group you have a group dynamic. And a group dynamic is something you have to deal with. Otherwise, nobody who has paid to come to your events is happy in the end, right? So I learned all my very important spiritual lessons from my wonderful teachers, who were all animals and plants, trees. And I learned from my dogs leadership. And I would like to convey that to you, because it's simple and it's very effective. So think of the group as a pack, yeah? And you are the pack leader. That means you are one of them, right? You are not above them. You are one of them. But you are in charge. Why? Because you got knowledge and experience. And everybody is there because they want you. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come. But they intend to forget this due to group, or they can, due to group dynamics. That's what we talk about. So There are 3 attributes to a pack leader in the animal kingdom, and so with the people. You can only lead the pack if they trust you to do the right decision. And that means you need to be confident, not arrogant. That's the difference. You know that you know, and that makes you confident and doing decisions. That doesn't mean you are arrogant, right? And think the others know nothing or are lesser than you. Confident. The second attribute is be assertive, not aggressive or dismissive. Assertive. So the oversight to step in when the pack needs order is what you need when you are facilitating a group and you are leading the group. You have the oversight, and you know when when there needs to be something done about the order in the group. And that means that you are assertive, but you are never aggressive or dismissive with the people. Yeah. And then the third thing I learned from my pack of dogs is you are in charge. You are in charge, and only you, because you are leading the pack through unknown terrain, right? That's where what leadership is. You are leading through unknown terrain. It's unknown to you too, right? Because you are part of the pack, you have never been there. But because you're confident and assertive, you can be in charge, and you are in charge. And this makes you do the right decisions. And how are you in charge? Basically through your body language, right? So a dog who is in charge, you can clearly see that in the body language, right? So what kind of body language is it that makes you be in charge? You want to throw some ideas, just unmute yourself, just throw some ideas out.
Making good eye contact when you're communicating.
Eye contact, yes.
Either being out in front or visible to everybody.
Yes, very good point. Don't hide. Yeah.
Posture, like having the spine straight and uplifted,
Exactly.
chest out.
Very good. That's very important. If you flop, you can't see it. If you flop in your chair like this, you know, not really being in charge. Very good. What else comes to your mind?
A strong, clear voice.
Very good. Yes. Strong, clear voice. Yes.
Confidence and stay centered. Keep your center.
Yeah, but what is the body language?
In this case, okay.
Yeah, in this case.
Open.
What's the body language?
Relaxed and open with arms down,
Yeah.
not crossed.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good point. Do not cross your arms or your legs. So you're not, you can't see it, but you're not sitting there with your legs crossed. Fine. Yeah, that's good. There's certainly some more things. Maybe something more comes to your mind. How's about clothes? How would you be dressed to be in charge?
Tidily.
Sorry?
Tidily.
What is that?
Tidy.
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 Yeah, like your clothes are well kept, clean,
Very good.
Yeah, good, sort of not, you know, in good condition.
Very good. In good condition. Yeah. Colors? Any preferred colors?
I don't think there needs to be a
White.
preferred color.
That is a Kundalini yogi saying that.
Yeah, I was like, why? I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher.
So
White is
white is more clear, more clean.
White is always good. It's in white, like a white canvas.
Well, white has all the colors. So you're carrying all the colors when you wear white.
I'd rather wear all the colors.
So I have another story to that close. So the family facilitator I was with, the first constellation I did, was a wonderful woman who was also training. My friend was a trainee with her. This is why I went there. You remember this workshop where I worked on my pregnancy, and she was wearing a natural color linen long dress, which was more a sack than a dress, and short hair. And the trainees who were at the weekend workshop, probably 10 or so, they have funnily looked pretty much the same. So they all had very comfortable, natural colored, natural fabric clothes on. And all the other workshop participants, they had what they had, jeans and, you know, all the colors. And because my friend was one of the trainees, I talked to her about that. And she said, that's not a coincidence. It was part of the teaching that you have to be dressed like this as a facilitator, you know, in this loose fitting, natural colors, not showing anything from the figure, like this. And somehow I found that really sad. I don't know, that was what I got for sad, so restricted, so, you know, sad. I was really sad. And when she was ready to, you know, when she did her degree and everything else, and I said to her, now do me the favor and throw this sack away. And, you know, go and facilitate your constellation in your beautiful clothes that you have, you know. And that's, so it's not a sign of being in charge or leadership to kind of be nothing or try to be nothing or try to be not there or show anything of yourself, right? That's not the meaning of it. And bold colors can be a really good idea to be in charge, by the way. It can help a lot. What matters is that it's your way to dress. That you feel confident, that it's your way to dress, and it's, yeah, tidy and clean and not offending, not short skirts, obviously, or big cleavage or whatnot, obviously. But even if there's a cleavage, that's good. I mean, you know, own it. If that is your style, you own it. Yeah. Don't try to be anybody else. Don't try to costumize. You know, if you love to wear white clothes because that's your color of choice, then wear white clothes, obviously. You know.
Well, I like
Don't
to
try
wear
to
black,
follow.
but most New Zealanders react to black. They don't like it when you wear black, so it's probably something I shouldn't wear.
So if
Yes,
you feel good in black, why don't you wear black? You might want to add a scarf. You might want to add a scarf in a nice neutral purple or what color, for example, or something, if you feel like it. So if you are also in doubt about your clothes, then that's part of your style as well. So So find something that would go with it. Yeah, that's what I would. So what I would always wear is pants, no skirts. Even though it's not very likely that you are lying on the floor like as a representative in a position, but as you know, and we will go on, especially in module 4, family constellation can be very hands-on. Yeah. And you can find yourself lying on the floor with your client and or kind of awkward body positions, and you do not want to have a skirt on in this situation. At least a skirt, then you have leggings under, obviously. Right? So that's the only thing I can say. No skirts. And obviously the clothes need to be comfortable, not restricting you, but it doesn't need to be sex. Yeah. So yeah, the leader shows his strength through being comfortable in what he or she wears. That's what I would kind of say. Clutter, maybe not so much, because it's distraction. Too much jewelry and too much this and too much that would be distracting, I think. So if it's not a must, then you might go along with 1 or 2 jewelries and not 10 or 20. But if it's totally your style, if it's your personality, then and you feel like you are not yourself and you don't when you're not wear it, just continue wearing it, right? So just to make the point clear, do not try to squeeze yourself into a smaller version of yourself. That's not the purpose. We talked about that a lot, how to lead from the position of a servant, and that's also when you lead a group. Because the interesting thing is, if you look at dogs or other pack animals, the one who is in charge is actually the one who puts himself out there. You know, the one is going in front, the one who dies, you know, who goes into the danger. No, it's not the one who's letting others go and be safe, and you know, they put themselves out there. They go, they do, they take the risk, you know. So it's not a position of safety, but it's a position of, this is how they serve. They serve even with their life for the group as a dog, not as a facilitator. Yeah. Okay. So exercise we might or might not do. I want to finish the teaching content first, because I'm afraid that we are running otherwise out of time. Okay. So the next thing is group dynamics. You might all have heard about it. That's nothing special with family constellations. That's in general when you're working with groups. There is something like a group dynamic. And you need to be aware of it, and you cannot have it at all. At all. If there's a group dynamic going on, there is no family constellation going on anymore. That's for sure. I guarantee you that. It doesn't fit together. If you love group dynamics, of course, and you have a like a weekend workshop and family constellation is just part of it, then of course do some exercise and games and whatever for the group dynamic, but not in the constellations, not during the constellations, and not during the time where you are facilitating constellation. You know, that needs to be separate, completely separate. So one of the group dynamics, or something that most of the time starts a group dynamic, is a discussion in the group. So you as a leader of the group is not allowing the group to discuss anything. So you're not discussing lunch times. You're not discussing if does the light needs to go on or out or whatnot. You decide that. Yeah. So you do the housekeeping. You say at the beginning, so our lunch breaks, our breaks are then. We do this, we do that, we do this, we do that. And then somebody raises the hand and says, can I do, how about we you know, things like that. And that you haven't even started. Somebody's very eager to take over the group, obviously, right? And then you say, let's talk about that later. Because you don't want to be dismissive, you know, you don't want to be dismissive, but you definitely don't want to take over somebody else through their questions, the group. Yeah. That's one part. So discussions, absolutely no way, right? I would not even discuss anything in the break because the group can go on then when you want to facilitate. So it's a good idea to retrieve in the break and go away. Have your lunch separate. Don't sit there with your people and, you know, engage in discussions, and then you find it hard to step into the leadership role once the break is over. So to avoid that, just go away. Come back, sit down, say, let's start. The other way to start a group dynamic is also very common, that one participant comment to another participant. That is an absolutely no-go. And that's guaranteed you lose your leader. You have already lost your leadership when this is even happening, right? So you have to pull the reins and absolutely go in between. So how do you avoid that? Is you say that's a rule at the beginning in a constellation or during a constellation, nobody is talking to somebody else or even, you know, discussed what somebody else said, ever. So you make it a rule right from the beginning. If there's a question, the question's to me, the leader. Yeah? So for example, somebody's sitting in your group and it shares with the group that she felt really uncomfortable in the last constellation, and she doesn't really know why. And somebody else says, I know why. You felt uncomfortable because that blah, 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 blah. And then, boom, you are out of the picture. You know, the other person takes over the lead, and then you put the other participant in the situation that they have to defend themselves. Because very often when somebody else is responding to another person, it is in a way that makes the other person uncomfortable, because it doesn't feel protected from that. You are in a group, you open yourself up, because the leader is there to keep you safe, the pack leader, right? But if the pack leader is not present, then you allow other group members to interfere with your personal space. Yeah. So avoid that under all costs. There's nothing good come out anyhow. If there's a good comment, they can comment it to you. So in this situation, you would say, hang on. Don't respond directly to this. We had the rule, don't respond directly to other clients. Say it to me. What do you want to say? What does that, you know? What does that mean to you? Say it to me. And then it would say to me, yeah, I was just thinking when she said that, and then I was thinking, but that's your observation. So it's you, right? You're talking about yourself. So do you want to sit here? Shall we look at it? Is there something, you know, coming up? You know, this is how you get the leadership back. And this is really important. It happens and it will happen, and it will not always end well, which is okay, but you will learn. You will learn not to give the leadership up when you are with the group. The other one is, and that's always a very tricky one, a participant is not offending somebody and judging somebody or anything. It wants to help another participant. And that's very tricky, but that's the same thing. A group dynamic is starting and you are out of the picture, right? And you can't let that happen. That is very often when friends, couples come together and one is in distress, maybe crying or something like that. then the other person feels compelled to comment on it or go there or hug them or, interact with them outside of the group and outside of the constellation. Yeah. And that's not the place, because the person who is in distress is in the field, is working. And there's a process going on, and you are the only one who understands the process and who guides the process, nobody else. And if you think that it is helpful for the process that somebody gives her a hug, you would ask somebody to get up and give her a hug. You would never allow a person to do that from their, because, by the way, you never ask anybody to do that anyhow. Because it's very important that this person goes through whatever, whatever comes up. It's very important that you allow this person this very intimate moment with their own emotions, and don't take it away and don't try to share it. Allow somebody to put their own stuff into it, with their pity or whatever they have.
So if you have some couples are in the constellation, would you say that at the beginning as well? Would you say, please, if anybody cries, or I prefer that you don't, or you really mustn't go? And
I have never said that before. I've never said that. I would probably deal with it when it comes up.
Okay.
Because some couples are very, they are very good with that. They come to a constellation and they are very good with, staying in their own space. It not necessarily happens. It would be probably too much of rules if you wait till it happens and then do the right thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you say anything about how much conversation should be had over breaks and lunch? Like, is there a necessity to maintain a sort of a connection to the field, or a gentleness around the field in the breaks and the lunch?
Very good question. So you can say to your group, respect everybody who doesn't want to talk. Some have stickers in larger groups with a silent on, meaning that this person can take the sticker, puts it on, and doesn't want to be talked to during the breaks. Right? In smaller groups, it's normally not necessary. You just announce. When you approach somebody, see if you get eye contact first, and an invitation to talk. If you don't get that, don't talk. That's important, yes. Yes, that's important. And I would say it's definitely good to go on a walk. I always encourage people to, take their lunch, go on a walk, sit somewhere for themselves. But if a lot of people come for chit chat anyhow, and then the break is the only time they can actually do that. And you can't take that away from them.
Yeah, but you're kind of setting the scene for the expectation that may be a really nice thing to be doing in the break rather than chatting.
Yeah, I would do that. Yeah. Not too pressing. So I would just say everybody can choose what they want to do. Just don't oppose your thing on somebody else. And that's especially with couples, but they have to sort that out with themselves anyhow. So it's not much you can say what they do. So important is that these persons who don't want to interact, that they have actually the room to not to do that with your support. Yeah. Okay. So distractions. Distractions happen, and can also kind of cause a group dynamic to start. Distractions can be like from outside. For example, you are in a tent, you are having your workshop in a tent, and it starts to rain. It's to storm even, So you have to do something about it. Everybody has to get up and secure the tent or something like that, right? And that's a necessity. So that needs to happen. but this starts a group dynamic. Just be aware of it, yeah? So when whatever was necessary has been done, you have to find a way to gather the group again under your leadership. Probably with a guided meditation, something like that. Yeah, just be aware of that, because with this group experience, we love group dynamics, and there's lots of workshops and seminars and weekends and retreats where people go only for the group dynamic or conversions or whatnot, you know. We love group dynamics, just not in a family constellation, please. Yeah, it is completely taking out the effect of a family constellation when that happens, because nobody is connected with the field anymore. Yeah. Okay. So then the other possibility you have in a group dynamic, that the group turns against you or a participant, right? Can happen. For example, I don't know, a participant is not particularly nice, or appears not particularly nice, a bit nasty, and then the group is kind of probably after lunch, probably they talked about it. Who's that? Have you seen that? He's stinking and he hasn't washed for years, and you know, things like that. And then the group come, especially in small groups, the groups come back into the room, and all of a sudden there is a group dynamic, because the group has formed against somebody, and worst case against you, but it could be another one from the group, right? So that obviously shall not happen. So you have to make sure that you always have everybody in your awareness, in overlooking everybody in the same way. And if you feel like something like this is happening, you have to, I cannot talk you what, because there are so many possibilities, but you have to come up with something to get the group dynamic out again and take over the leadership. Yeah. To be aware of that. So if the group turns against you, that's not a good sign. But it can happen, and don't be afraid of it. I mean, everything can happen, and nothing is too much for you to handle. Then it's just a good exercise for you to take over the lead in a very tricky situation. So a sign that the group turns against you is, for example, if they sit there like this when you talk, or when you ask for representatives, nobody gets up, or things like that, you know. It is just a sign that you lost the pack, so you have to collect it again. So probably again with a guided meditation, or with something more energetic, put the music on, get them to dance, or have a couple of games, you know, in your toolkit that you pull out. Yeah. Okay, so exercises we postpone if we have time for the end. Now, of course, in a family constellation, you have the client, you have the group, and you have the representatives in a constellation. And that is actually your speciality as a facilitator of family constellation, to lead representatives. Yeah. So that is what you actually focus on. Because the family constellation is nothing without the representatives. And they need also guidance, especially if they haven't done it before. So either they are completely new and they are unsure if they need to perform or whatever, or their experience is even worse, you know. They want to take over the facilitation from you. So you have to deal with both these kind of ends of the line. First of all, it is really good, even if they have done it 1,000 times, to prepare the representatives for their roles. So in the beginning, when you have a little talk going on, you talk about housekeeping, whatever, you also tell when you're representing, when you've been asked to represent, make sure, like the way I would put it is, there's always a reason why you are chosen for a representative role. It has to do with you. That makes them aware. Oh my gosh, when I'm chosen for a representative role, I'm actually kind of important in my own life as well. So they can reflect or experience an aspect of their own life. So that's something you always say. So you educate your group that it is not random when the family system or the morphic field chooses for the family system a representative, that is an aspect of you that is perfectly fitting with this person, and this is why you are chosen, right? That's one thing. Always prepare them for that. Secondly, prepare them that they don't need to do anything, especially the new ones. And there is no failure. You cannot fail as a representative. That's important that they know that. Nothing is demanded from it. They don't need to feel or say or move anything. Nothing, anything. There was this one constellation where a guy has been chosen. Did I say that before? It sounds familiar. The guy has been chosen, and he said he has never done it before. And he said he feels nothing. I think I said that before, right? You're Nicking K. Yeah. Okay. So remember this situation, exactly that, the representative didn't know that, that was all good. So you have to tell him that's all good. That's perfect. You always tell the representative whatever they do, it's perfect. You never question a representative and say, why would you do that? Or why would you think, or why would you say that? And would you not want to do something else? Never, ever. Because you lose the representatives. They don't trust you because they don't trust themselves. You are practically, what you do is the mistake of coming with authority. You suggest to them something else. Yeah. That's a different thing. If you say, aha, so if the representative says, I think I want to turn away, then yes, let him turn away, yes. But if you got the picture, it would be important that this representative actually talks to somebody to clear a dynamic. You would ask them to turn around, see how it feels. It's a suggestion. He doesn't do anything wrong when he turns away, and you allow him to do that, but then you ask him to turn around. And they would either say, I can't turn around, and then that's a dynamic, obviously. Or they would turn around and would say, yeah, that's okay. And then you have also a new step in your constellation. Or they turn around and say, no, I don't want that. And so whatever happens from this suggestion is for you a next step to go along in the family constellation. So that's all good. So the representative, whatever they do, whatever they feel, there's one exemption in all this. Always when I say one exemption, it's always the same. So you don't need to learn a lot. It's always the same. We talk about that by the end of the module, because that's troubleshooting. Yeah, doesn't happen very often, but it can. So you ask the representatives when it's clear they know what to do, like as a representative, that when they go into the field, that they are focused and collected, as same as you. The only difference is they are not experienced, as you are to do that. But that's fine. They don't need to. They do their best. That's good enough, because they have been chosen as a representative for this person because of their abilities. You have to trust the field the whole way, right? But you always need to know what is the field and what is the group dynamic. So you follow the field and never the group dynamic. Yeah. A very good hint is to ask them not to look at each other at the beginning. Because if they are insecure or unexperienced, they might look at somebody and they know them and they start to giggle and they start to, be in the relationship with this person. And that makes it impossible for them to be collected. But if they don't look at the, if they don't look, physically not looking at the people, they can't interact. Yeah. So ask them not to look at each other for a while until you feel they are collected. And then ask them, now look. Now look. Is anybody drawing your attention here? So don't rush it. Don't rush it, and really wait. Wait. Very important. Small steps. Take your time. Tell them never to talk to each other. Ever. Because then you come into a group and a chit-chat situation, right? Which doesn't help the family constellation. But the representatives think that's their role. They think whatever comes to them, what they are thinking about needs to be said to the person. And the person thinks they need to respond to that. But that is not family constellation. That's role play, right? That's a very distinct difference. And you, with a bit of experience and all the knowledge from the training, you will see very clearly, very soon, in the body language and through resonating with the field, before they say anything, what they want to say. So it's better to tell them not to say anything, and if they want to say something, they have to look at you and raise their hand. And then you can go to this representative and ask them, what is, if you want. If you are somewhere else busy, just let them wait. And then, or if you know already, you say, I know. But if you want to know what then let them say it to me in one word or three max. Don't let them explain. Yeah. What do you feel? Is it warm? Is it cold? Do you have an emotion? No. Things they can answer with one word. Like, I feel anxious, I feel angry, I feel sad, I want to lie down, short sentences. And that's what you want. That's coming from the field, not the ego. Right? But when they start to rant, like, I'm standing here and I think this person over there, that must be such a horrible person. I bet she has killed so many people. That's ranting. That's not the field. The field would never say something like that. So you have to stop that. You say stop. Just simple stop. Don't talk. That's your leader role. Don't talk. Silence. And if you don't want to kind of make it a personal thing with this representative, you can say, everybody silent now. So nobody feels personally attacked and did something wrong. You just say, now everybody's quiet. Right? So it becomes, you take over the leadership of the group again. Yeah, so when they start to giggle or chat or anything like that, there are two ways to deal with it, because there are two possible scenarios in general. One could be the one I mentioned before. They know each other and they are into their relationship when they are standing together in a constellation. And this is why they have to giggle, especially women or younger women do that, They, you are the grandmother. Oh, look, I'm the grandfather. Things like that. Obviously, that's not part of the constellation, and that's not allowing them to be collected and channel anything from the field, right? So, of course, you can exchange one of them. I probably wouldn't do that because the field has chosen them. But I would say this is serious matter. It is always life or death, because that's what it is. The dynamic is always life and death. And there's nothing to giggle about. And you just don't go where they are into the relationship, you just go with the field. Say, this is serious stuff. Then there's this other giggling or laughing, which is actually coming from the field, which we would probably call hysterica or something like that, yeah, which is often a sign for guilt. And you just learn through observation to see the difference. Yeah. Often it is a sign for guilt and coming from the field when they don't know each other. But obviously there could be an incident that they both know each other and it comes from the field. So don't be too sure about that. It's a different dynamic and you will see it pretty clearly.
When it's coming from the field, would it also be not in relationship, or could it appear to be in relationship between the two of them, let's say?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, Kate.
I'm just wondering if it looks different when it's coming from the field, like maybe they're laughing to themselves or something that is slightly different.
Yeah, something so the energy is different. It is this desperation that you feel. When somebody's giggling because they are friends, it's a light-hearted thing, you know? It's you know how girls giggle. But if there's this laughing coming up from the field, this has this urge, this desperation with it. Yeah. Okay, is there anything else about the representatives? Maybe you have a question, something that I haven't mentioned. Yes.
I noticed that sometimes a representative may confuse what he or she may be feeling when they are representing with their own experience, and they they would question it, like, no, I this has nothing to do with her, the person I'm representing. And I suppose that, that's all coming from the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is coming from the head. That is kind of a double crossing. The field has chosen this representative because it's struggling with deciphering what comes from the head and what comes from the heart or from the field. So that's another hint on the person they are representing and the confusion this is causing and the insecurity. So you can just say to them, that's okay, that's all part, it's all good. You don't need to, in the constellation, explain to this person about family constellations. You just take it as an information and you go with it. And you say, yeah, that's okay, that's all good. And if you really struggling with understanding if this is from the field or from the head, just ignore it. Just don't work with it. It cannot be so important. Otherwise, it would be more clear. You know what I mean? So this is a good point. When you're when you're facilitating a constellation and you get confused, even a little bit, it's like, I can't hear you.
It was a representative who was confusing what he was perceiving and questioning.
So yes, I understand.
I had to tell him, don't question it. I don't need to know what you think about it. You just describe what you're perceiving, what you feel. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, and this is already too much information, Mariella, because you're already teaching him how you facilitate a constellation. Yeah? So just tell him, that's okay. Just take the information. Thank you. That's okay. Thank you. Just take the information. What I was referring to is in case you would be confused or insecure, if you take what he says and said, oh my gosh, is that not coming from the mind or not? because to you, silently, you're not discussing that with anybody, you know, in case, just ignore this position for now. You know, don't spend any more time there. It's like sitting in a hole, stop digging, because the hole just gets deeper. You go away there and focus on another aspect of the constellation. Yeah? That's another good point. Do not educate anybody about family constellation unless they pay you for it. Your work does not entail that anybody from the group learns how to facilitate. Yeah? In fact, that takes a lot away, you know, from the actual family constellation. So you are learning to facilitate, you have all the knowledge, but you're not sharing this knowledge with your group. You are using the knowledge. It's your glass to fill it up with the constellation. And I know how that feels if you are you know so much and you feel so good and you want to share it, but share it with your partner at home, but not in a constellation. Yeah. Also, that would take a little bit away from your leadership, you know, because for the group it is better not to know why and how you do things. The only interesting part is that it works. You know, that's all you need to care about. And it's actually really good if there's a bit of this mysterium around. How did she do that? You know, that is good. That's good. It's good for your leadership. Yeah. Tracy.
Do you have situations where a representative is not you know, focused and collected, but quite manipulative of a position, you know, where they'll bring their own agenda or their own perceived something to a constellation, and almost there'd be a feeling that it would almost sabotage the field, the constellation, or, you know, do you have that happen? And if so, how do you manage it?
Okay, that happens, and that is what I said before. The one exception to the rule, which we talk about later, and it's all the same course. So it's easy to remember. So just bear that in mind. We talk about that. Okay, so what comes next? When you work as a facilitator, and you know your toolkit, you know your tools. Your tools are words, right? We learned the magic words in all its facets and all its variations. So if your representative is kind of not knowing what to say or saying too much or any of these things that you don't want, then suggest another word to the representative. Try it out, you know, and say, find the shortest, or you find the shortest way to, or ask him to find the shortest way to express what he wants to say. 1 word, 2 words, or 3. And when he doesn't do 1 word, then say, no, I said 1 word. Just stay with it, you know? When he was going on and this is that, she said, stop, 1 word, what is it? And I say, I think I have to, that's already 5. I say, stop, 1 word. And then he said, he will eventually come to say anger. And then you can work with it, right? And when he says anger, then you can also suggest to change it and see how, you know, see if that feels better. When he said maybe anger, then you can suggest fear. And then he said, oh, Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, yes. I actually fear actually what I feel. You know. So this is how you guide a representative to tell you the right information from the field. Because you can trust that he has it, so you can trust that the field is giving the information, but the way a representative is expressing it can be so varied, you know, that you have to find a way to deal with that and funnel it in a way that actually becomes powerful and guides. So ranting, obviously you have to stop. That's very important. Stop it soon. Don't wait too long, right? And that it could be very upsetting for the people, especially when they are new. So find a nice way to do it, right? Remember, don't be too authoritative. You lose the group. Find a nice way, but determined. So coming back to the pack leader and the dog would, if somebody of the pack is not in its right place and does something it doesn't want, it would not bite the dog. It would growl. Yeah. Just growl. Just a short growl to start with. And that's what you do. Your growl is body language. You firm up. Your voice gets deeper and a little bit louder, and you say one word. You know, and it has its effect. It has, yeah, obviously you have to practice that, and we will do that. So you feel comfortable in doing it. And that's how you stop them to go on. You don't say stop or I don't want to hear anything from you anymore. You say, give me just one word. That's the best way to do it. Okay, look at the body language and suggest the appropriate words to acknowledging what is. That's even if the representative says something else. So that's actually more important. The body language of a representative is more important as what he or she says. So if you see in the body language a discrepancy to the words, then go with the body language. And thank goodness we can easily test it, because you would suggest then the appropriate word that you know, yeah, and say please instead of whatever he wanted to say. Just say please. And they would, why would I say? Doesn't matter. Don't discuss. Say please. And then he says please, and then you ask, is this like better or worse? Like, do you feel better or not? And then they will probably say, yes, better. You know, and they don't know why. They don't need to know why. They don't need to be educated, and the representatives in a family constellation at all. You know, they are there to serve. That's all. And then you go on with the constellation, with what you have become, what you have received from this representative after you have worked him through, guided him to the one word or to the one gesture that is important to change the dynamic. So that's very important. Something has been deleted there. What was I probably wanted to say here, changing the words and suggesting others, that you can also suggest not a word but a gesture. So you can suggest to the representative to lay down or kneel down or sit down, you know. So it doesn't need to be a word, actually. It could be, you know how powerful like a body movement is. Or turn around or turn away or come back or anything like that. It's the same. And everything that is silent is stronger, has more energy than words. Right? So prefer that. If you see clearly, if you can see clearly a movement, that's what you go with. I remember what I wanted to say. I wonder why it's not on the chart. Ask the representative to have only the movements very slow. Every movement that is not slow is not coming from the field. The field has short words, slow movements, and is very unspectacular. Yeah. Everything that is dramatic is not coming from the field. This is now really coming from the personalities that are there. And that only means that they are not collected. They are disrupted by something. Who knows? That doesn't mean that you have to replace them. You don't have to replace. I don't think I have ever replaced a representative. I mean, of course, you can do it if you feel better with it. If that's what you want to do, then do it, right? You can ask a representative. Bert has done that. I remember very well. Not later though, but in his earlier work, he has done that all the time. But you know, he has learned, and we learned from him. So we don't need to do that. The representative has a good a good reason to be there in this situation. So deal with it. But if you're beginning and you feel make yourself comfortable. If you feel uncomfortable with this representative, then ask them to sit down and choose somebody else. You know, better than you go along with him and or her and you feel this discomfort and you can't really stay empty and collected anymore because this is so annoying to you. Then no. So it's more important that you're in your comfort zone than that the representative is in his comfort zone, right? Yeah. Okay. So the next one is traps to fall into. So the client takes over the lead. That can happen very easily. What do you think? How does that happen? Client takes over the lead. He says, oh, and I also have to tell you, and you need to know that my mother has aborted a child, and my auntie has done the same, and this is why I need to work with my auntie, because this is where it started. And you are so like, oh my gosh, yes, it sounds very logical, but then you forget that, or grand auntie or whatever, that this is not this actually person she thinks she needs to look at is actually not part of the family system because not a member. You forget about that because it's so convincing. So you be aware, always come back to the basics. Don't be concerned with actually people who are part of the family system as you have learned it. Don't think there's an exemption. There is no exemption. So the stepmother of the grandfather or of the father, let's say it that way, yeah, had an abortion, fine, so what? She's not part of the family system. It will not have any impact on the family system. So you've been led by the client astray. And that is also actually by design, because the client doesn't really want to look at it because it maybe is too painful. So it tries to give you these detours, But the good news is the client wouldn't be there if the family system wouldn't have sent it. And this family system is not sending the client to confuse you. You know what I mean? So you can trust that the client is there for a reason. And there's a reason why the client wants to work with you. So even if the client tries to lead you astray and take over the lead, it's not deliberate in the means of the family system is not making this client doing that, right? It's his conditioning or her conditioning. So you can, go through that and stay empty and collected and, rely on your knowledge and your wisdom and just say, okay, let's look at the person who is actually part of the family system, the grandmother or who that was in this example, and go with that. The group can take over the lead. As I said, they can even turn against you if they want to. The group can only take over the lead when you allow a group dynamic to happen. So if you avoid the group dynamic happening, then you don't need to worry about the group takes over the lead. But if you like, but because group dynamic is quite likable, you know, and we really like that. If you feel you're a part of the group and the group dynamic starts and you feel kind of that's nice, I feel good about it. Don't forget you have a job to do. You have to facilitate family constellation. You can't have a group dynamic. So you have to pull yourself back and say, okay, I'm not here part of the group wanting to have a good time. Yeah, I'm here to facilitate a family constellation. So stop the group dynamic. Don't let the group take over the lead. One person in the group said, now this is something that we guarantee you to happen. There's almost every time one in the group who actually wants to be in your place. They would actually want to be the facilitator. They wouldn't admit that, and they wouldn't be qualified, obviously, and none of the group want them to do that, but they think on a very subconscious level, so these are the persons that always have something to say. So, and that normally starts quite early. So when you explain something, then they would say, oh, I had the same experience. Well, that's already red light. If someone said, I know the same, I have the same, I can do the same, you know? And then they go on and then they explain. And then there's also the situation where you could, and then they're already teaching in no time, you know? And normally these persons, they look so nice and they smile and they are actually quite likable. So you let them go on for a little while and then you realize, oh my gosh, they're taking over the group. They're actually trying to teach my group, you know, and then you have to take it back. You have to take the reins back. So just, you know, do that. Observe the early signs of this. The early sign is somebody who says, yes, and I have, and I know, and I can tell you. These are all signs to say, no, don't let them talk. Making mistakes, that's a trap to fall into. Why? Because we all do mistakes, or not, depends on how you look at it. One of my teachers has said, in God's universe, there is no mistakes. There's only room for misunderstandings, right? So if you feel you made a mistake or you've been misunderstood, yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. Just own it. It's the only thing you can do. Just own it. Yeah, so what? Everybody does mistakes or is misunderstood for that matter. Yeah, just own it. If you're feeling, if there's a feeling of confusion going, did you want to say something, Namshakti? No, okay. If there's a feeling of confusion going on in the family constellation, meaning that you don't really know, you know, what's going on or, you know, where to work with, that is often that there are too many representatives, too much going on. And then it is good to narrow it down to the nuke of the family, which is the parents, maybe the siblings. Yeah. So ask everybody else to sit down and said, okay, now we are only working with the parents and the siblings. And again, don't explain why. You're not teaching the group family constellation, facilitating, right? You just say, okay, that's what we do. Now, everybody else sit down. We are working now with it. And then the family of origin will probably most likely show a dynamic you are familiar with and you can work with that. Yeah. And it is really difficult. So it's both is difficult. It's difficult to work with large groups, which will not happen anywhere soon because you won't have large groups. But it's also difficult to work just with one person. So these are the two situations, these extremes, which you want to avoid when you start, right? To set you up for success, you know, and not, you know, let you run into too much trouble when you do that. So we talked about that. I will repeat that: leading with authority versus wisdom. So always lead with wisdom. What is the difference? Wisdom is love, right? Your love, your unconditional love, is always present and is encompassing everybody present. Nobody is left out. That's wisdom. Another trap you can fall in is not breaking off a constellation at the right time. And this is when you hear of constellations that go on for 2 hours or maybe 2.5 hours. This is insane. There's nothing good coming out of that. There's just a facilitator potting around, and not knowing when to break it off. No? Which is coming from a state of fear, not missing the point and not providing a result for the client. But the strongest impact of a facilitating is when you reach the peak, which is clearly seen when you are empty and collected. You can clearly see that the client, respective the representative of the client, is relieved, feels more freedom and happiness. And that's it. And then break it up. Whatever else you think is unsolved, it's not for now. It's not for this constellation. It's for another one. If it ever comes to that, because it might not be needed. So the training or the art of facilitating is also to find this point when the energy is high, when the relief has come through to the client, and then to break it up. And that's actually sometimes, Bert Hellinger did that, and again was very much criticized for that, in a quite rude way, and quite often when somebody just started to, cry or something like that. Okay, we leave it here, he says. And then everybody's like shocked. But in fact, that's good because the energy was so high and it will still work in everybody after that. Even stronger if it's broken up. But don't do that until you are super confident and experienced. Yeah, that's not for the beginning at all. But definitely be aware of the peak of a constellation and do not go further than that. Then the other trap you can fall in, not or you want to finish a constellation although you haven't actually reached the peak yet, right? That's another trap you can fall into. So what are we doing then? You just sit down, silent, waiting for the next step, because obviously the next step hasn't shown itself yet. And that's all you can do. Of course, you can break it up if you really don't. That's fine. It's nothing is really lost. But you don't want to make it a habit, obviously. It can be. It should be an exemption. You have in yours as a facilitator, and the leadership that you have, and the wisdom and knowledge you have the time to sit through uncomfort. Yeah, you sit it out. You sit through it. So, and then the last trap I want to talk about before we are finished is overlooking an important fact. That can happen, happens to everybody. And often the group tells that, often the group says then, why did we not put the grandfather there? And then you say, right, I don't know, but yeah, we should have looked at the grandfather. Now, what you obviously do is you continue with the constellation or start a new one and put the grandfather there, right? You take your time, you do that. Because it's, you know, it's a mistake, misunderstanding with the field that happens. To own it, you know, and do whatever is necessary. In this case, you look at it and see how it is. And just because the group made you aware of it is not a failure of, you know, it's not a failure, because the group is part of you and you are part of the group. So it's not a failure. The group is there for you. And they will not see you failing when you own your mistake or your misunderstanding, you know. That would actually, you know, make you a stronger leader. Okay, we are getting tired, aren't we? And tomorrow is another day. So, is there anything with what we have? Just stop the sharing here. Is there? Oh, just making sure that there's no slide following. I don't think so. No. Okay. So I stopped the sharing. Okay. So, is there anything to round up what we have discovered today that you would like to ask or add, or something quick? No? You're happy? All good? Cool. Awesome. So I see you tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Have a lovely day, night. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.